Well, the question tonight, are young leaders of the ANC dynamic enough to tackle the current ills in society? With us, ANC Youth League TUS team member, that is Khulekani Skosana, as well as political analyst Sandile Swana. Gentlemen, good evening and thank you very much for your time and for joining us today. I will not beat about the bush, Khulekani. Sandile Swana has been scathing towards you. In fact, he says this generation of ANC young leaders lacks ideology, articulation, is less educated, and quite frankly, doesn't see it contributing anyway towards the renewal of the party or even the improvements in South African society, facing a number of ills. Are young leaders in the ANC merely there just to attract young voters, or is there more to it?
Thank you for having us, and good evening to your viewers. And basically, we would love to respond to his assertions that the Youth League is basically what he's saying dead. We disagree with him on the basis that he even has to make an analysis on the life of the ANC Youth League. It must affirm that this is a well-established organization which has been existent for a lot of years. And the ANC Youth League has proven itself over time that it is here to lead the young people of South Africa as a youth movement of the liberation movement, the African National Congress. We would not agree that the Youth League is dead. The Youth League is very much alive. That is why you have a Secretary General who has served as both the Secretary General and President of the Youth League. The first President of the ANC of the country, the Democratic South Africa, President Nelson Mandela, is someone who comes from the ANC Youth League. Even this person that he says is alive, Julius, he is a former leader of the ANC Youth League. The ANC Youth League has produced both for the liberation movement and for the opposition and for other organizations which have left with time. But the ANC Youth League remains here alive and leading the youth of South Africa. I must acknowledge we have challenges, but you must understand that this is not the first time the ANC Youth League has to relaunch itself. The ANC Youth League was banned in 1960 along with the ANC, but it relaunched in 1991. And you just did mention that Peter Mokaba was president of the ANC Youth League. And we want to say that it won't be the first time that we have to come up from what he would want to assert as the ashes. Yeah. The renewal process of the ANC is not something that can happen in a day. And we are moving away from the sensationalism of reducing young people who don't have car washes to car wash, who don't have cars to car washes. We are renewing the organization from an organization that purports itself from Gucci wearing and Louis Vuitton wearing to an organization that has to deal with unemployment. Yeah. We're not populist in our approach, and that is why perhaps he would want to say that we're not alive. We are dealing with real problems of the country, unemployment, and illicit societal challenges. Right. And the renewal of the ANC Youth League is not going to happen overnight.
I want to hear a little bit more on those ideas that you're saying you're dealing with around the socioeconomic challenges of the country. But let me bring in Tatu Swana. The Youth League is alive, Tatu Swana. You've got to pay a little bit more respect that even yourself in your analysis, you're speaking about a 111-year-old organization. You're speaking about an organization that has produced a number of leaders who started in the Youth League, one being former President Nelson Mandela. The current SG is among those. Peter Mokaba is among those. This assertion that you're saying that the Youth League is dead is far from the truth.
Yeah, I think the issue that the Youth League is dead, I wouldn't have wanted to say that at all. However, what I did say, and I would like to maintain, is that at this present time, and for quite some time now, the Youth League has lacked dynamism. Then the question is, what do you mean when you say somebody is lacking dynamism? The idea of dynamism is about movement. When something is dynamic, it means it moves. So when we look from 1994 till today, the unemployment of the general population has moved from 4.6 million to about more than 12 million people. It has actually tripled. It has grown by 300%. I was part of a process in 2011 that was trying to, we did generate a youth development strategy. It was a very difficult process to engage with the likes of Lungisa, Malema, and so on. They were struggling to grapple with the issues and understand the issues that were in front of them. Now, when I say the youth is not dynamic, I mean the following. Let me be clear. People like Stephen Biko represented the youth at a time when most of the liberation movement was banned, it was outside the country. He would have established clinics. He taught us in those days to say, can you start processes that create self-sufficiency in the black community? We can get education that comes from us. We can get a lot of things done by us, medical clinics and so on and so forth. Those philosophies then, some of them went into the UDF, the Committee of 10, the Education Crisis Committee, where our own people got into a place where they could do things for themselves, to move from point A to point B. And I think Obabu Skosana also agrees that they now would have had presidents of the Youth League who are more concerned about buying a house for 5.5 million in Mooikloof, drinking the Blue Label whiskey, not engaged with the actual issues that the youth of the 1970s, the youth that launched 1976 did. And this youth league that we have now has not engaged with those issues. I don't deny that maybe they are thinking
what I'm hearing is that they're saying they're not engaging those issues in a populist manner. In other words, from the top, they're engaged with them from the ground. And that is where they're saying they are fixing these issues.
Yes. Now, the thing about it is that they should not be too worried about my comments. In this sense, if you have spent the past 10 years sleeping and not doing your job, and now you've just woken up, you've got to admit that you don't have a track record of success. You don't have a track record of dynamism. To appeal to the presidency of Youth League presidency of Mandela, if you raise Mandela as an example, I will agree with you, but you have not done what Mandela did in his time. So the issue is that we've had dynamic leaders in South Africa, young leaders who achieved a lot before the age of 40. And in the past, in fact, since independence, the most significant achievement, even this Malema that they want to praise, the most significant achievement so far of Malema was the removal of Thabo Mbeki from power, removing the most successful president in the history of South Africa, certainly probably since 1970 until now, an unbeaten track record. So they then launched the nation into a path of decline and scandal, perpetual scandal. So I agree with my colleague here that indeed, if they are now saying they are waking up, they are going to do something, we will wait for them to do something that they can put on the table, that we can compare to Mandela, that we can compare to Tsietsi Mashinini, that we can compare to Steve Biko, and other credible young leaders. For them, for now, they have no good track record of success. They have zero.
Let's take a break. We'll come back, Khulekani, get you to respond. Sandile Swana is staying with us, political analyst, as well as ANC Youth League National Trust Team member, Khulekani Skosana. What are your thoughts tonight? Is there a youth dynamism that this caliber of ANC Youth League members could infuse into the oldest liberation movement in Africa? 072-110-5584. We'll take your thoughts. Back in a moment. Back with you tonight in a conversation tonight. Political analyst Sandile Swana, ANC Youth League National Task Team member Khulekani Skosana. The question is, will the ANC Youth League inject dynamism, or at least the young membership that has been infused into the NEC elected at its 55th National Congress? Khulekani, if you're saying you've just woken up, maybe that's good and well. But in the last 10 years, there is no track record of any semblance of innovation coming from this youth league, particularly if you look at where the rate of unemployment is sitting when we're speaking about young people.
I completely disagree with you, because the ANC Youth League is the one that injected the idea of the land revolution into it being a resolution of the African National Congress. The ANC Youth League is the one that led the idea of economic freedom in our lifetime, which later culminated into a political party by the so-called CIC, when we have one commander-in-chief in South Africa, which is President Ramaphosa. We want to say that what used to be the ANC Youth League, which was a populist movement in the era of Julius Malema, is not the ANC Youth League today. We're not interested in being on television. We're not interested in being popular. We are interested in resolving the challenges of the young people of South Africa. You have stated the rate of unemployment in our country. We think that is a confrontation we must deal with, as opposed to talking about it. What we see Julius Malema as being is a comedian. I think his competition is Trevor Noah. He's an entertainer. That is what he is. He's a liar to South Africans. He has continuously lied to the country because he wants to appear on television. That is not our business. If you are going to compare us to President Nelson Mandela, you are being unfair. President Nelson Mandela did not lead the ANC Youth League in an era of democracy, in an era where the ANC is governing. That is where we find ourselves. And President Tambo did tell us that the most difficult time for the ANC will be in a time where it is governing. And we are the young people of a governing party in our country. We can't behave like some Mickey Mouse NGO. What we need to behave as is the youth of a movement that is leading our society, and we are doing so by ensuring that...
How are you leading so, though?
We deal with the challenges faced.
What ideas, as far as I mentioned...
We are doing so...
economic development. Hold on. What projects have you designed that you can talk to us right now that have been targeted to the group that are benefiting that group? Because evidence says that young people are unemployed and they are continuing to be unemployed.
Firstly, we believe that we must become the solution that we seek. And if we are to become the solution that we seek, the challenge for us is the old guard that sleeps in parliament, the old guard that is concerned with their pension and their legacy. And that is why we have ensured that for us to change the situation of the African National Congress, it is to inject young people who can advance the interest of young people into the body politics of the African National Congress. In about 20 years, you have not had a situation where you have you have 3 young people under the age of 35 who are in the National Executive Committee of the ANC. In the past, we injected the former Secretary General of the ANC Youth League, Comrade Njabulo Nzuza, as a deputy minister. Even when you can tell us that Julius was strong, he could not deliver a minister in cabinet. We have had Deputy President Ronald Lamola as a Minister of Justice. That is us ensuring that we change the African National Congress from within by ensuring that it is taken over by young people. And the professor is correct by saying that the injection has happened. And we must dispel the notion that it is the ANC that installed young people into its leadership. It is not the ANC. It is the ANC Youth League. Former leaders of the ANC Youth League and former members of the ANC Youth League who were delegates in Nasrec ensured that the ANC Youth League safeguards the ANC as it is our responsibility. As President Kgalema Motlanthe calls it, we're a necessary problem in the ANC. And a problem we shall be, a problem that will ensure that the ANC delivers on its resolutions. The ANC delivers on the demands of young people. The ANC addresses the question of unemployment. And the programs that we have initiated as the ANC Youth League, it is to ensure that the ANC not only respects young people, but takes us seriously. We're not a ride-along of the African National Congress. We are an integral part of the ANC. We are a league of the ANC. And what we want to see, and it has been happening, we have about 20 mayors in the country who are young people who have become the solution that I'm saying. If we want to be the solution, if we seek a solution, then we must be the solution we seek. And we have ensured that we have young people in the structure of the ANC. That is not some strategic decision by the ANC. It is a decision of young people that for us to change the African National Congress, we must have young people in the structure of the ANC. I must also dispel the notion that young people in the ANC are not educated. The young people that we've put in the NEC, they've got master's degrees, they've got honorary degrees, and they are studying. The young people in the African National Congress are studying and have got qualifications. And that is why we led the charge to say that we can't have a situation where deployment in the ANC merely happens on the basis of cadre deployment and popularity and the fact that you are known by people. It must happen on the basis of qualification. It is the Youth League that led that charge. The reason that qualifications are required to occupy government positions is a resolution that was charged by the African National Congress Youth League. This Youth League that it is purported not to be alive today. The Youth League is very much alive and it is here to stay, and ANC Youth League, and that shall be so for a long time. And we want to say that to young people of South Africa, let us not be despondent. Let us ensure that if we are to change our country, we do not do so from a point of just sitting on an armchair, but we do so from a point of providing solutions. If we want to end load shedding in this country, we must not do so by blaming it on elders. We must do so by providing solutions, just like we did when we provided the.
Let me jump in here. I'm going to challenge you a little bit there on that question of coming up with solutions in a moment. But Swan, let me bring you in. From just that response, it seems the biggest challenge would have been the old guard. And this particular ANC Youth League, or this young leadership, has been particularly successful, for example, in injecting, deliberately so, because of the work of the ANC Youth League, young members into top structures of the ANC, into mayoral positions, into the cabinet of South Africa. And this in itself should be seen as quite an achievement in terms of the work that this ANC young leadership has been doing.
Let's start off by saying that when independence or democracy came in 1994, the young people of that time who could be put into office, Thabo Mbeki was one of them. And he led with distinction and set unbeaten and unbeatable records for the time being, related to the caliber of successors. In the Youth League, there is nobody who has emerged in the Youth League of the caliber of Thabo Mbeki to take the exact word and the level of GDP growth and other things that were achieved at that time, so that we experience those things. The quality of policing in South Africa, the extent of infrastructure investment. So to say that Mandela was leading, for instance, outside of democracy in the pre-1994 era is good to say that, but Thabo Mbeki demonstrated in no uncertain terms that a younger member of the ANC can take state power and use state resources to make a success. Another difficulty that I actually have with the Youth League, and I accept that they've just woken up, I accept that. But I think that, for instance, if I was them, I would have asked myself in the rural areas that there are people like Royal Bafokeng who've made a certain measure of respectable success. Are we able to learn anything from them and take those models to other places and improve on them? There has been a discovery of oil and gas in the shores of the Eastern Cape. Are we able to look at international models like Norway and actually harness that opportunity in a way that creates wealth in the Eastern Cape? Wealth is not known in the Eastern Cape. If you see a Xhosa-speaking person, we are seeing the face of poverty for the most part. So there's a number of things. I don't hear the ANC Youth League and its leaders articulating how they are learning lessons from Estonia, how they are learning lessons from the Seychelles, from Mauritius, from Rwanda, lessons that bring an upliftment of the quality of life and setting deadlines and timelines of when they are going to take action. The last thing I will say, COSATU and SACP, just like the Youth League, have injected people into cabinet positions, let's say since Khulekani, in order to reverse what they call the class of 1996 project, the class project of 1996. And that has been 100% failure. To say go and flood the branches of the ANC with COSATU members, SACP members, and now Youth League members. That strategy, since 2007 until today, has actually been part of the major failure and, in fact, state capture in South Africa. So we need to see some fresh and innovative thinking in those leaders of the Youth League that are waking up now.
Let's take a break. We'll come back with more on this conversation. Sandile Swana, an ANC Youth League National Task Team member, Khulekani Skosana. And some of your thoughts, you can tweet us as well tonight at Newzroom 405, or otherwise you can give us a shout on WhatsApp, 072-110-5584. We're back live with you tonight. Can the young leaders elected into the ANC's NEC inject youth dynamism? Is a question we're asking tonight. Sandile Swana, ANC Youth League National Task Team member, Khulekani Skosana are our guest tonight on In Focus. Khulekani, let's come back to you. The question is not whether or not you can prove to put members and inject them into the structures of the ANC, into cabinet, into government, into other areas. But it's whether or not you can come up with ideas. So let's talk about ideas, for example, on the energy ecosystem. You have mentioned, for example, the question of load shedding. Coming out of this conference, what would you say are ideas that were pushed by the ANC Youth League, that have been adopted, that will be applied, that are going to be support for the target audience that you want to benefit from them?
Thank you very much. We think that ideas of young people should not depend on the adoption by the ANC National Congress. The ANC National Congress represents a lot of interest groups. What we do want to say is that the African National Congress has offered us free education. The African National Congress has built so many schools. It is pointless that the ANC builds all these schools and universities and yet is reluctant to give young people the platform to be creative when it comes to solving problems of the country. So we think that if the country, South Africa, is to go forward, young people need to be given platform. We have so many young engineers at Eskom who are begging for a chance to display their talent. And for as long as those young people are not given the platform to do so, then we will continue to have the challenges, the energy challenges we have. We think that South Africa as a country should not necessarily be hastily to move away from coal. Coal is boasts as one of our biggest revenue givers, but we have an abundance of coal in our country. Yes, there is a challenge of climate change in the world, but if you look at giants such as Germany, such as Britain, even the West, they are re-energizing and repowering their coal power stations. So we think that coal is central in resolving challenges of energy in our country. If we are to resolve the energy crisis, we need to build new power stations, and we need not be shy on the cleanest form of energy, which is nuclear power, because sometimes we are reluctant to be independent in thinking, and we subscribe to Western narratives that say nuclear is dangerous and that say that we must move away from coal. Yet, as they are hypocrites, they go where they are moving us from. We should not move away from coal, and we should invest in nuclear as part of the solutions. But my point is that young people at Eskom, young engineers and young scientists that have studied and benefited from the education program of the African National Congress since 1994 must be given the platform. It's pointless for us to be taken to school, yet not be given platform to display that talent. That is number one. In terms of dynamism, I want to say that dynamism means change. And if we are going to be compared to people such as President Thabo Mbeki, we must understand that we exist in different times from the era of President Thabo Mbeki as a young man. And we must be given the chance to go through our challenges as they are presented to us. Right now, we are in a similar era as that when the ANC Youth League was banned prior to 1991. That is why we do not have an elected leadership as the ANC Youth League. We are appointed. I myself have been appointed by the leadership of the ANC. And for the Youth League to come into its full body, people such as me should have been elected as opposed to appointed. We must allow young people of South Africa to determine their own leadership. Currently, you have an ANC Youth League which has been chosen by elders, including myself. So we're asking the ANC to give us a chance to go to the conference and contest, and the leadership of young people shall be elected by leadership, by young people. For as long as we continuously have young people who are appointed by elders, then we will continue to have a certain state of despondence as young people of the African National Congress. Because for young people to have confidence in their leadership and for those leaders to have mandate, they need to have been elected by members of the ANC Youth League. We are confident that the ANC will grant us that platform where we contest each other through ideas and we get a leadership of the Youth League that has been elected by members of the Youth League. We want to say that we ask young people of the African National Congress not to lose hope because the promised land is coming soon. President Malula and now Secretary General has promised.
How do they not lose hope, though, Khulekani?
Deliver a Congress of the Youth League.
Listen to me. You're saying the promised land is coming. How do they not lose hope? Let's ask you.
How they must not.
No, hold on. I just asked you two ideas. Give me two ideas of what you're going to do at ESCOM. You have regurgitated what the old guard has already said. I mean, Gwede Mantashe has clearly said, let's not move away from coal. It's nothing new. Nothing new coming from the ANC Youth League. Young people are saying we're expecting some new, fresh ideas coming from the ANC Youth League. Not repeating what the old folks have been saying.
But do you want me to say we must go to the moon and create a new form of energy?
Maybe.
It's
why
simple.
not?
For Gwede
Why not?
to say that coal, for Gwede Mantashe, for Chairman Gwede Mantashe to say that we must retain coal, these are conversations we continuously have with the African National Congress internally, because what we don't want to become is an ANC Youth League that sensationally speaks on media and does not engage the leadership. The ANC Youth League sits in meetings of the ANC, and when you see the leadership of the ANC speaking our ideas, you must not think it's their ideas. The discussion around coal and the discussion around renewable energy, those are ideas of the African National Congress Youth League. So is the best idea of the ANC that you can give me right now. You cannot accuse us of regurgitating ideas that are originally ours. I've told you that there are political parties that are formed at the behest of the ANC Youth League. We are saying that young people must be given the platform. The Chairman Gwede Mantashe is an elected leader of the ANC. And he is at the correct platform to speak what the ANC has been convinced to do by young people. It is these young people that we inject into the ANC that sprout those ideas into the minds and convince the leadership to agree with us. The ANC is a unitary organization. We don't speak as individuals. And when Chairman of the ANC speaks ideas, it's not his ideas but ideas of the African National Congress.
All right. So that is all. The old generation might have been taken out of the NEC, but of course the language will still remain that of the ANC, from what we're hearing, and it could be articulated by younger faces. But if it is the message that is coming from the ANC, it will remain the same. So I suppose we can't expect them to speak anything different.
Yes, the that is why I used the concept of innovation. Innovation is that you can take old ideas and recombine them in a new way. For instance, we grew up knowing that a phone must be in an office or a phone must be in a home. Then somebody came up with the idea that I don't want to phone a house. I don't want to phone an office. I want to phone a person. Therefore, I must design a phone that is always with the person so that I can phone a person. So that is a breakthrough thinking. The idea of a phone was old by then. So that is the type of difficulty that we have. And I sympathize a lot with Skosana. Nozwelo olukhulu kakhulu kwi-Youth League. Basenkingeni. Now, what I want to add is that the Solidarity, there's a trade union called Solidarity. They then put together a whole list, and I haven't read their list, of experts, technicians, artisans, engineers, and so on, that they believe could make a big difference in resolving the issues at Eskom. I would have expected the Youth League, ANC Youth League, to say, we have also compiled a timetable that says that particular station can be resolved, and to solve the problem of that particular one, here are the resources that we are providing, and here are the other things that we think government must do, but we ourselves as the youth, we are physically available with the correct expertise to do X, Y, Z, and we're available from that date onwards. So those are the types of practical things. And I like the idea that Skosana is putting on the table, really, that the time for talking is over. I did say elsewhere that we should not have had a January 8th statement of things that will be done in the future. It should, 90% of that statement should have been a statement of results that have been achieved since Ramaphosa took over. But
before we run out of time, I want to come in here. What Khulekani is saying also is maybe even an appeal to the old guard to say, give us the platforms. It seems they are ready to take up those platforms. He says, for example, there are engineers, young engineers with innovation at Eskom, but they are not given the platform, so to speak, to come up with those ideas. You think that would be the challenge, that the old guard is not making way for them to take that platform?
Did Solidarity wait for the old guard, or Solidarity went to the nation as a whole and said, here is our list? And I am saying, and he said that himself, Skosana has said this, that for their ideas to work, they don't need to be adopted by the old guard or by the ANC for that matter, because the ANC has got many different stakeholders and many interests. So the Youth League has got to know what its interest is. Steve Biko never waited for any old guard or any other type of guard to make sure that his ideas are implemented on the ground. So that is the type of militancy and dynamism that is needed. To sit there and say we'll wait until the chairman of the ANC calls a meeting and then our ideas will be floated there. Solidarity didn't even do that. And people who run businesses out there, who make things happen in South Africa, they don't wait for any ANC meeting to do what they do.
Let's leave it there because of time. Appreciate you both. Thank you very much for coming on. Sandile Swana and Khulekani Skosana, member of the ANC National Youth League Task Team.